And today, on our first episode of Elev8 with Steve and Theresa, we're getting to know the hosts. So, Steve, I would love to know more about Elev8 and what got you to this point in your life.
Yeah, to me, Elev8 has been, I guess, 44 years at this point in my life. And it's a way of living a higher state of mind, body, and spirit, you know. And I try to live this as a daily thing. It's not easy, but it's the baby steps in life that you make, and you just keep improving, and hopefully you improve, and your world around you improves, and everything improves. Mm-hmm. So I met you at an event, and what does Elev8 mean to you?
So Elev8 to me is all about living a higher state of mind, body, and spirit. Elev8 to me is the all-encompassing way that I was able to heal my body. And so I believe that through this conversation that we're going to have with the world, we'll be able to open our minds, bodies, and spirits to what their opinions are, our opinions. Maybe we can talk about controversial subjects without actually hating each other in the end. And so Elev8 to me is that it's all about bringing the world together. I'm that kid that prayed for world peace as a kid, and I still want it. So that's what Elev8 is.
Absolutely, and I love world peace too. You know, like I don't think it's possible right now. I think we're far from it, 50, 100, maybe 200 years away from it. It's crazy, you know, and I think we all want that. And I do. Like, there's a lot of things. I'm 44 years old. I've had my own business. And there's a lot of things that have, or, you know, a concept, have gotten under my skin. This ain't right. For instance, how I got here with Elev8 and creating the Sober Surfer and this whole business, you know. I was doing what was right for me. Not necessarily what was right by what I was told by the government. Okay. You know, so it's, you know, how do you elevate? How do you do that? How do you, because there's consequences in life. And that's the big thing that when my life changed, was understanding that life is full of consequences.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you were kind of living your life against the grain and then realized that's not going to work.
Yeah, you make some serious errors, and you like, man, you know, luckily they weren't like huge serious for me.
Sure.
But
this is why Elev8 is where it's at today. So I would love to hear your story, and then I'll share mine about how I got to where I am. But let's start a little Steve. When was Steve born? Where was he born? You know, how did we get here?
And I believe that our, you know, our stories and what we've done in the past were very different.
Absolutely.
And yet very much the same. Mm-hmm. And so it's really neat. It's been great to have you in my life and know you. And so that's what I think is great here is what I'm excited about this. But anyways, I was, you know, I born at home. You know, not many people did that. It was kind of neat, so I don't know what it had anything to do with me.
Right
but
on.
Born at home, so, you know, our shop's here. I'm still at 44 years of age. I don't live more than probably 10 blocks away, you know, 2 miles away from where I was born. It's where I live. All of our shops are around here.
So I like to tell
my
people
roots are
that
strong.
Most of your businesses are within a mile of the home you were born in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
So yeah, I'm really homely like that, you know, and whatnot. Grew up, you know, I did have a mother and father for the first like 8 years of my life, and then dad left and was raised by a single mom working, you know, 3 jobs sometimes. And so, you know, while it sucked sometimes then, you know, the reality is what I've learned is no pressure, no diamonds. And I look at people who have really, you know, I'm not saying I have succeeded yet, but the people I do look up to, they've had some rough times, and so they've learned how to get past them. And so while they've sucked as a kid, it helped me get through a lot of things. But yeah, my mom working 3 jobs, just the work ethic, I you know, owe that to her. And my dad was a very hard worker too. Yeah. And then how I got here, you know, like I went to school. I was pretty good in school. Was good in math, was all that stuff.
Okay.
And then you know, got to this world of cannabis, and you know, I thought, man, this is something that I like. I did research on it before I used it, and then I fell into that world. And with it, you know, they say that cannabis or cigarettes or this is a gateway drug. Absolutely, I will disagree with that for the rest of my life. And it's because I use cannabis to completely avoid other drugs. Oh, I'm high here, I don't have to do this or that, you know.
Right, and was cannabis something that your parents had introduced you to, or something that you sought out in like high school?
No, it was introduced to me. My dad grew it as a kid, you know, he
Okay.
got busted, all this stuff. So I'd seen it, you know. Once I got into it, my mom let me grow a little plant in my closet. Like, I don't know why she did it, but thanks. And, you know, it was pretty cool. I don't know if it's the best thing. Parents shouldn't do that, break the law. But hey, my mom let me do it. And so, like, cannabis wasn't bad. You know, my mom didn't really use it when my dad left, just because
She had to raise kids, huh?
Yeah, she didn't have money for it. Like,
No.
everything. Like, so, you know, her whole world changed when he left. But
And so you had mentioned that you went to school. Did you go to school for education in cannabis, or you were just...
No, I just, you know, regular school, and I learned that, you know, just like did research there. But then in the school, we talk about that. That's a big thing, a topic that we'll get into. I'm really excited to get into these topics because I'm very passionate. And I made a conscious decision not to go to college, right?
Okay,
And
a
college,
traditional four-year college.
traditional 4-year, yep. You know, they told me go. I was going for electrical engineering. I did go to Pikes Peak Community College for a year.
Okay.
You know, but I was like, what do they do? And you know, they would tell you that in school. They just tell you these beautiful jobs that you're going to get making all this money and blah 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 blah. But what is it? And we had an electrician at the house, a tradesman. You know, and my mom was like, hey, have you ever thought of this? And I was like, no, never talked about it in school. They still don't talk about it in school. It's nuts.
The trades.
The trades.
Yeah.
You know, so the minute I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute, I can learn a trade. You know, I did learn. You know, shit hits the fan when dad leaves. You see mom make do. So I thought, what happens if the economy goes to poop, right? Because my mom was always worried about it and this and that.
Sure.
And I thought, well, I know what an electrician does. In the worst case scenario, I could go door to door, knocking, you need electrical work. I'll do this, begging and pleading for money. I own a skill. So that was one thing I learned in life, was I needed a skill more than just this education.
Sure.
Education was there, I got it. But you know, just then at that time, the internet was always coming on. We had, you know, we had the ability, we used the library then, but the internet was just to go check out books at that time, remember?
Yeah.
But the knowledge was there. Chat rooms were starting to open up, and more knowledge was opening up, easily accessible.
Okay.
I don't know where I was going with that, but
So, like, for your electrician career, you were able to do a lot of research, like, on the internet at that time. That's when it was starting to introduce, which helped you in your career.
yeah, the electrical program, I did a union program, so I feel blessed to have been in the union side, what I call socialistic structure is basically what
Okay.
it is. It's not capitalism.
Right.
Is my views, right? And it's my opinions, and my opinions stink like anybody's asshole. So, but I was in there for 6 years. It was beautiful, and I seen the brainwashing and whatnot. But I also learned an amazing structure, and things were built, probably like you did in the military structure. And so the union has amazing structure, amazing education program, and I learned that there, and it was great. And I thought I was going to be an electrician forever, never even a boss, because I didn't want to, you know, you're going to be a great foreman. No.
You didn't want to control people or manage them.
No, I just wanted to go work with a buddy, you know, because you always have a different partner to work with.
Right.
Or a few, or sometimes you're by yourself.
It's different when you're accountable for yourself, but when you have to be accountable for other people, that's when...
No, it sucks.
Yes.
Right, and so why do now I understand why these CEOs out there get paid all this. They're not accountable for 100 people, 1,000 people, sometimes not even 10,000, but hundreds of thousands of people. I don't know how they do it, but whatever, that's a different subject. So yeah.
So go ahead. You were an electrician, and then how did you transition to Elev8?
Yeah, and that was a great story. You know, I have been a cannabis user, and you know, throughout the electrical program and everything like that. Didn't use on the job, and you know, once in a while maybe, just because it might have been the thing, and I don't suggest you do it, but most of the time I wasn't, you know. And then so all of a sudden I had a party, or no, how did I? Oh yeah, that's what it was. All of a sudden some kid found a gun Like on the street in my hood. I didn't live in the nicest neighborhood, obviously, but it wasn't that bad. And so cops are coming to my door, and I'm freaking out, thinking they're there for a little bit of cannabis, because it's 100% illegal here in Colorado, 100% against the law back then.
Okay.
And so, you know,
Were you still with your mom?
No, I had moved out. I've been an electrician for, 6 years now, working on almost 5 years.
So you're in your own home, and the cops show up.
Cops show up, I was scared. So I tried to get rid of all the cannabis, didn't work,
You don't eat so much.
Yeah, clogging drains, toilets, garbage disposals, everything. And that turned into a thing, another story, another time. But, turned those lemons into lemonade. Got laid off because I was all of a sudden a druggie. Oh, yes. Although I was working next to, I had to give a ride to at that time I was a journeyman, no, I was still an apprentice, yeah. And, I was giving a ride to him on Streeter Air Force Base because he was a drunk and lost his license a bunch, and is what it is.
But he could keep his job, but you couldn't.
Right, because I was a druggie. Yeah, we were on Streeter, we're not smoking.
Right.
We're not smoking. Anyways, long story short, I got busted growing some cannabis, got laid off, and rather than what I see people now, they just kick back and take the layoff or the unemployment as a vacation. I taught myself HTML. I was presented with an opportunity. There was a thing called drop shipping out there, and the internet was just coming up, and I had heard 2 or 3 years ago about an e-store, and I was like, well, that's stupid, and now that's what we own 18 years into it. And I thought it was stupid, like, it makes no sense, right? Like, but anyways, I taught myself HTML, and the opportunity was selling sex toys. And so I was selling sex toys, built a website called Sex Sells, SEXSELLZ. It's pretty neat. But did that, and a lot of work, it worked it up on the Google Analytics. They changed it, lost it, did all this. Realized that, I'm not fully in control of stuff. And then I really loved vaporizer, and I thought, man, it was really, to me, it was really expensive, and like what it was made out of, and I can do a lot of things mechanically. One thing about my dad is he always brought me in on anything, working on a car, working in the kitchen, laying bricks, gardening. It didn't matter.
Oh, that's awesome.
We were in the mix always with it, and so that was cool. And I always felt like, and so I made my own vaporizer. And then here we are, 18 years later with the vape. We got now 2 glass shops. We work, got glass blowers. We got 20 plus employees. It's nuts. It's something at the beginning I said I never wanted to do. Here we are. I've had ups, downs. It's been crazy. Reality is we've almost been out of business a few times.
Sure.
And it's hard. It hurts. Had to lay off a lot of people. It's one of the worst days in my life ever. And then you move things, and you do things, and you get through it, and you just keep moving on, man. And it's seriously like motherfucking Rocky. Life's like Rocky. It's gonna knock you down.
Absolutely.
Get up.
And so I can't imagine that 18 years ago there was a lot of knowledge for you to find on to create your own vaporizer. And so what I'm assuming is that you had experienced a vaporizer and you liked it better than traditional smoking combustion with a lighter.
Absolutely.
And so what time and like energy did you put into this? Was it something that you were just like, oh, this is easy, I can do this? Or were you thinking long term, the world is going to benefit from this device, and this is what I want to create for the world, not just for your own personal?
Well, for me, it was yes, it was personal for everybody. That's what I love about America is capitalism.
Yeah.
It really allows people to potentially find what they like and capitalize on it. The thing about doing your own thing is it's a lot harder than they tell you. And then being in the industry that I was in, when we started,
right.
Cannabis wasn't legal. Vapes wasn't even a word, I just love this machine. We won't mention the name of what it was, but I just love this vaporizer. It was so great. And before that, in high school too, I had made a little dome vape because once I got into cannabis, I did research about it. I cared about like me about the environment, like maybe not so much. I was still a lucky little shit. But you know, I did. I cared about the nicer things in life, I thought. And
Right.
vaping definitely was nice. Flavor was phenomenal. And I've always been frugal. I learned that from my mom, being maybe not necessarily a cheapskate, but frugal. And vaping helped that. So I thought, man, I really thought when I made this, I was going to eliminate pipes altogether. Because you smoke half so much, the flavor is so phenomenal. And that is not the case. I still smoke joints, blunts, pipes, everything.
Okay.
They're different experiences, different things. But this is the ultimate way, and it's what I consume mostly out of now. So.
Yeah, and so with this, we understand it was for consumption, but then I see that it's evolved. And so, did you learn anything else from this, or did you just create this and move on, or do you actually have all the glass blown? Like how far did this evolve for you? Did you?
It's still
blow
evolving.
yourself Did you blow yourself? No. Did you make the glass for it and then determine that?
Absolutely. The whole thing was a challenge that, you know, I had a guy, Slim, working with me, and he's like, this business shouldn't even exist. It was made during a thing that, you know, when Prohibition, this and that, and we did it somehow. And, you know, glass blowing, I didn't have that. I had a book. I had to teach myself in the springs at the time. Glass blowing places, they wouldn't help me out. The blowers that were around here, they didn't know what I needed. I couldn't communicate because I didn't have it. And so it was a huge thing. It was. It took years. The evolution still happens. You know, we didn't know what dabs were. I believe we were the first to ever invent an e-net. We were putting it on this like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, because it was dabs just started happening. You know, the aroma top, and that's what I've always liked. I thought America, you know, it's something built in America. It's to last. It's to be able to work on it yourself. Kind of like what I was growing up with. Like, you could do it yourself, you know, that mentality. And that's what this machine was always meant for me. Like, and that's what sucks about it, is because the goddamn thing lasts for, some people got it already like 15, 18 years. They don't break. Some break sooner, you know, and it is what it is, but some last.
And so with the creation of this, is this strictly your only business, or did you go on to open like stores and your own glass blowing studio? Like, I would love to hear about the progression now of like everything that falls under Elev8. So you were the electrician, you got busted, you did the sex cells, and now you built this machine. What has spawned from building this machine?
Everything. It's just like, I'm a serial entrepreneur. You know, I didn't know what that was, but I'm definitely that. Are they all successes? No, because I honestly have no clue what I'm doing. You know, I work with everybody around me. We do it as a team. I make a lot of errors, and thank God my team, you know, sticks around and works with it. But we do get a lot of things right as well, and that's what's exciting is the thing. So, yeah, you know, each thing for me is created by fear. I live in a constant state of fear, of failure, of not meeting expectations, everything.
Kind of like in panic mode all the time.
Always panic mode. I'm gonna lose it all, and you know, and it's not about losing or having anything. It's that I'm gonna lose control, and it's not about having control of this, but it's a control of my vision and what I want, and this and that, and the idea. Yeah, I don't know.
So now you have 4 locations here in Colorado Springs, right, to serve the community, and not just the community, but the world. I believe that I heard one time that you were the first vaporizer that was legal in Israel.
Yes, and we were the first vape to go to space.
See, check that out. You've done some amazing things. You've worked with over 500 bands, I've heard. Willie Nelson is one of your #1 celebrity customers. Like, yes. Steve, this is amazing what you've done with Elev8, and we're excited, you know, to move forward. It's so much, and I'm so proud of you, and I know the world is as well. And I love that you're opening up this forum for people to actually talk to you.
Yeah, you guys later on. I promise you'll get upset at me. You'll disagree with me. I'll disagree with you. And we disagree and we agree. And that's the way the world is. The freedom of speech, you know, I see this thing. I feel like that freedom of speech is under attack. I don't understand this stuff. If you don't agree with somebody, great. Talk with them. You know, don't physically get in harm, but talk with them. Discuss it. Even if you're yelling, stop. Come back tomorrow. Eventually you get tired of yelling, And you might open up. Maybe you won't, but somebody else will. It will happen. There will be breakthroughs. This country is the greatest country on earth. There's no doubt about it in my mind at all. Zero. You know, we're so progressive to so many things. Yeah, we're behind on some things, but so progressive. And you know, I feel like sometimes I almost feel like my vision and something of what America is under attack.
Okay.
And you know, like life, they this separation going on. It's been here for generations, and we want to talk about it. Separation of everything in you know, wage gaps or something, or race, or religion, or whether you have no arms or no legs, or gay or straight. Like the reality is, once we cut our skin, we both bleed red, and we're feeble, weak creatures. Anyways.
And that's why we started this, right? So that because you and I, we're two separate people, have two separate lives, two separate things. There's things we've talked about that I never understood and you never understood, but by talking together, we're able to come to an understanding.
Right.
Even if we don't agree, we understand that it's okay to have a difference of opinion and to feel differently about other things. And it doesn't, the way you feel about something does not physically impact or harm me.
Right.
And so I should not take it personally.
Right.
Right?
But we should stand up for what we believe to and want to have discussions, because is there a right and a wrong? Absolutely. There is no doubt in my mind democracy and what we have is the right thing, and communism is wrong. I'm sorry. You know, there is a good and an evil, and you can say whether you believe in a religion or not, there's good and bad, right? And so there are those things, and I think we should have opinions, we should believe. But really, I want to hear about your story. You know, where were you born? You had a completely different life. I was born here, not moved, like roots, and you've been all over. Let's hear from you. Theresa.
Yeah. So I'm Theresa. I'm an Army veteran, paratrooper. But it started. Thank you. My pleasure. Like, it's so weird when people thank me for my service, because to me it was my duty. It was the only thing I knew, the only thing I ever wanted to know. But I still appreciate it, and I understand the sentiment now. And so I am 46 now. I was born in 75 to a single mom. I don't know who my biological father is, but she met my dad, who I call my dad, and he married her when she was pregnant with me, and she said to him, "I don't care if you love me, just love the baby inside me." And so he's still my dad, obviously. But he went into the Army, and so right after I was born, we were stationed in Germany. So in my mind, I lived the first almost 8 years of my life in Germany. I recollect that maybe we lived at Fort Sill, Oklahoma for a little bit of that time, but generally for 8 years we were in Germany. And so there was a lot of travel back and forth. And I learned a lot about the German culture, because my parents are very culturally acceptable of other people, so which means they went out and they love to drink.
They're like little sponges. They'll go out and absorb whatever.
Yes, absolutely. And so
they love life.
Yes, absolutely. And so they, we were in the community, but then my dad and mom, they really liked marijuana as well, and so that didn't jive in the Army at that time. It was like in 1983, they just started drug testing, and in Germany, like drugs and hash, that was a big deal. I just remember it as a kid. And so my dad got kicked out of the Army, and we went back to the States in 1983, I came back to the United States, and at that point, I had two other brothers. I had two other sisters and a brother. One of those sisters they had put up for adoption. And so there was only three of us. Well, my dad had a hard time keeping a job. My mom always seemed to work really hard at different restaurants or whatever. She had a lot of trade skills. She was a lifeguard when I was growing up, different things like that. And so we went to work a lot with my mom. And I never lived in one area for a full school year until my senior year.
That's crazy. I can't even imagine it.
So from the grade 0 to 12, right, 11, there was never a full year in the school. And so I got to meet a lot of people throughout life. I've lived in a lot of cities, a lot of states, a lot of different countries. Um, and I used to think a lot of the times that maybe we were just camping or whatever, but maybe we weren't just camping. Maybe we were running or hiding. I don't know. It was an interesting life. And so with that came a lot of poverty and abuse. We weren't put in the right environments. Everybody around us did drugs, was alcoholics, stuff like that. And so I had to be an overcomer.
Mm-hmm.
I was the oldest one, so I had to make sure my brothers and sisters were taken care of. And I actually immersed myself into church. So I found Salvation Army Church, and I found Jesus, and that was my best friend, and that was how I was going to make it through life. There was a lady that lived across the street that kind of adopted me and the other neighborhood kids. But nothing was ever really easy. I could never...
Because life just isn't.
Right. And so I never had friends for a long period of time. Now, granted, my friends, like I just rekindled my friendship from my best friend from elementary school because, remember, I wasn't there long enough.
Mm-hmm.
But in every place, I was such a good person at selling myself that I would become really involved.
Man, I couldn't imagine the anxiety of that. Like, just me going back to school after a new school year was the anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I couldn't imagine moving around to a whole new school, not no one friend. You know, I'm sure after a while you develop the mental calluses and whatnot, but
I did, but I didn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still never feel like I fit in. And so every single city in the world has a different culture. And I'll explain that. So if I went to school in Seattle, Washington, and they were really hip and, I went to school in a place where there was like 1% white people. And the majority of the rest there was Asian, black, whatever it was just a melting pot. And so the culture was different. Then I go to the school over here and there's one black person in the entire school. So the clothing that I wore here didn't fit in here. And so the judgment always came, right? Because I never truly fit in anywhere.
You were always behind. Whatever.
Behind or ahead.
Right.
Over here they're in the country, over here they're in the city. It's so that helped me build a lot of resilience. A lot of people say you're strong. I don't know that it's strong. I was doing what I could do at that time to survive.
Right. It's that Rocky thing. You just gotta you just kept learning to get back the fuck up.
Yep. And so my uncle was the command sergeant major of the Washington State National Guard. My dad had been in the Army, and my grandfather had been in the Army. My other grandfather fought in World War II. He was born in 1911, immigrated here from Czechoslovakia in 1914. And so that was a pretty cool thing. I always knew that I was going to be some type of warrior. I always wanted to be. It wasn't necessarily going to be the Army. And so after all of this time in high school, this guy calls me and he says, "Hey, Theresa, have you ever thought about the Army?" And I freaked out because everybody in the world knows me as Theresa. But my name is really Theresa. Mm-hmm. That is what my mother named me. But as a kid, people corrected me and told me that was wrong. My name is Theresa. So when he said Theresa, I was like, whoa, he knows me. And now I have to go in the Army. But it was great because that's what I was like, yes, of course, I want to go in the Army. So I joined at 17. And when it came time to ship, my friends in high school were like, "We don't want you to go, stay here." It happens to everybody. So I was like, all right, gained a little bit of weight because I knew that if I gained weight, I wouldn't have to ship. So I didn't ship, but then I rejoined right back because I realized that life was shitty out here for me.
Right.
I had nowhere.
There was a reason you joined the first time.
I didn't have parents that were trying to send me off to be successful. I had to figure it out. I didn't understand college. I didn't know anything. I just knew the Army was a safe place for me. Maybe it could help me heal from all my childhood trauma. That's not how that works, by the way. Mm-hmm. And so I joined the Army again to be a secretary and a paratrooper. So I was going to jump out of airplanes, and I was the fastest typer in my school. I graduated distinguished honor grad. I had a PT score that was above 300. That's the maximum. And so they sent me off to the 82nd Airborne Division. And the minute I get there, they're like, "Hey, congratulations on being so great, but we're going to change your job. You're now a military intelligence soldier, and we're going to put you in this vault. We are on deployment to Haiti right now, so we're getting ready to deploy, get your weapons and all this stuff. We're going. That's crazy because I wasn't prepared for that, but that's okay. It started my my drive, right? I was already driven in life. I made it through Airborne School Paratrooper, so I succeeded in the 82nd Airborne Division. I even had the #1 post office in on Fort Bragg. I took it over when it was failing. The guys, they don't really care when it comes to mail, and there was inspection failures, but I turned it around, and within 3 months we were the #1 post on Fort Bragg. And so I feel that I've always been called into positions that needed to be fixed, and I help fix it, and then I'll move on. So as luck would have it, I couldn't finish out my Army career because I had 3 types of cancer. By this time I had 3 kids. My ex-husband was deployed in the initial insurgent in 2003, so it was time for me to get out of the Army. I chose to get out of the Army. I became extremely addicted to opioids due to our medical VA system. I wound up going to prison for 3 years because I committed a financial crime. And then when I got out, I worked at the Humane Society in Savannah, Georgia, and that was a great career. I became medical manager. I was a holistic animal clinician, animal behaviorist. I worked for ASPCA, Humane Society United States. I would go in and do those searches and seizures. And this is kind of synonymous with the rest of my life. So while I was in the Army, I was picked up by a DOD agency called the On-Site Inspection Agency. It actually no longer exists. It was put in place exclusively for the INF Treaty with the American United States and the Soviet Union, where we were to go in and remove their weapons. So this whole war right now is really kind of crazy for me because I know a little bit more than the general public.
We were supposed to be removing a lot of stuff and we didn't.
I mean, you know, things evolve. I was there in '97 when Saddam said, "You can't come in to our country and expect for weapons," which was also the beginning of the weapons of mass destruction. Then in 2003, right? So it's all like there's just a lot going on.
And there were no weapons over there, right?
Right.
That was the whole thing. Like, we're fed so much shit, and you've seen it, and I've seen so many people that I have, you know, been in my life that were also in the military and see this stuff, and I just see corruption every place. You know, and it's through the government. It's not that there are so many great people in the military and in civilian life, but there's so much corruption out there.
Right.
And that's what we want to talk about too. Is this stuff's got to stop. We got to stop putting these people in charge.
Yeah.
That are corrupt.
Yep, I agree. But when you get to a certain point, you don't know where the corruption is coming from until you leave the situation and the veil has been ripped away.
Because you're being also brainwashed in a
Yes,
sense.
I was the best
controlled.
soldier I could be. I was doing exactly
Right.
what I was told to do. If you would have told me to go kill that guy down the street because he needed it, I would have done it.
I want to put that out there. Military, another socialistic program, just
It
like
is
the union.
socialistic, yes.
I feel 100% when I was in the union, they were brainwashing the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, looking out, completely brainwashed.
Mm-hmm.
Union's great stuff. Military's great stuff.
Mhm.
We need military way more than we need union. Way more.
Yeah, and it
But
still
there's
goes.
brainwashing going on.
Yeah, absolutely, and even still, because as a United States veteran, I am not supposed to consume cannabis, right? And so that's why we're here. We're talking about elevate the cannabis industry and why I got here, how I'm here.
They were killing you.
Yes, absolutely. I was severely addicted to opioids, and so I can pull my medical records and show you that after my 3 years in prison, 3 years, 4 months, 40 months I spent, I was on only an antidepressant when I got out. And within 3 months, I was on 3 different opioids, 3 milligrams of Klonopin a day again, and other medications to help cure, like, if you got constipation or dry skin or whatever it is, your hair's falling out, they got to give you more medications to do that.
In prison, you don't get those medications.
No. Well, no, you go in and they start you on them and you have to, and they give them to you, but then their goal is to get you off, because guess what that does? It gets more drugs into the prison, because if I'm not a good person, I'm going to get my drugs and I'm selling them to these other
And then
inmates.
it keeps the slavery thing going on in
Yes.
there, shit like that.
Yes.
Yeah, that
There's
makes
more
sense.
drugs inside of prison than there is out. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Yeah.
it's
More
it's
corruption.
crazy. Yep, and
Right.
so we'll be able to talk about that stuff a little bit, in another episode. But then when I was working for the Humane Society, I was I loved it. I loved my job. I was in the community. I helped start a low cost spay and neuter clinic, trap neuter release programs, worked with important people in the community to help raise money, and the downfall was me being the only euthanasia technician.
Oh, I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah, for about 3 years in a high kill shelter. And so not only was that on me, but also, remember the Humane Society of the United States, ASPC, I would also go and be the medical person when they would do their search and seizure. So I had to determine a lot of the time who got to live and who got to die. Mm-hmm. In that moment, everybody kept saying, Theresa, don't get burned out, don't get burned out. And I'm like, you don't understand, I'm a warrior, I'm a soldier, I know how to decompartmentalize. You can't do that when you're a compassionate person with a heart, right? And so eventually I started having nightmares and everything, and I smoked pot. Well, remember I just told you I had been in prison. So after 3 years of being on probation, I decided to smoke pot. And I got back in trouble, and I had to go back to prison for 5 months. When I got out, my job, I had been replaced. I was homeless. I had nowhere to go. I had my truck, I had my dog, and I had 2 cats. That was all I had, and I didn't know what to do. So I talked to my probation officer, and I moved back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is where I originally got stationed in 1994. They say paratroopers always come home. If you go back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and you are a paratrooper, you will be home because there will be somebody there that can love you. Like, it's just one of those things. A lot of different units in the Army don't have that camaraderie. I'm a lifetime member of mine, and we even do health and welfare checks. Every couple months, we'll call around to the different soldiers. So, yeah, it is good being part of that community. And so my old sergeant said, come home. So I went home, and within a couple weeks, I was working at a German restaurant, which I loved. And I stayed there for a while, and then I started seminary. During this time, I didn't, I do also have 3 children, which I know I haven't talked about a lot. So I started seminary, and I actually have about 4 degrees in God, and became a pastor, youth pastor. But the problem came when I finished all my training, and even during it I was told that they don't ordain women in certain churches. All of these certain churches is the majority. So they determined that women can't serve. So
God, that just is crazy to me, the separation of church and state, and I get this.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, like I thought for even these tax things, it really has to be equal. Fair housing, fair this, but the church could be not fair, and because you're a woman, you're evil and you can't do this stuff. It's question that.
Yeah, I'm questioning that, and also and I know it's not the church's fault, the people in the church, but they always encourage you, pray harder, do more, and I'm not talking bad about religion. I'm just saying that I believe that all of those medications I was on and praying harder was going to heal me. I was sick by the time I was 40. I wound up on a liver transplant list, told I would be dead by 45. And all my peers at that moment were just kept encouraging me to take my medications and to listen to the doctors. Well, I decided that I needed to move to Colorado because I was dying and I needed marijuana. I wanted an alternative therapy, and marijuana was the only one I knew. So I told my doctors, they institutionalized me in North Carolina, but when I got out, I drove here to Colorado to help launch a church. Sure did. I got the church up and going, all the while I was consuming. And then I came out of the church because I realized that I was actually healing from alternative therapies versus praying harder. So I had to do a lot of self-searching inside my soul and my heart to determine who I am as a person. And through this,
I realized that you're the most important person in the world.
Yeah, and I did this. I got to where I am. So now I'm 46. I'm no longer on a liver transplant list. Elev8, Cannabis, in my mind, saved my life. But a lot of it had to do with my willpower, my resiliency, and that so-called strength that I had to learn from being a child and never having a stable foundation.
And I think that's what I love working with you so much is the elevate. Like you were elevating your own thing like I was. I don't know how I got lucky enough to come up with the name and all that, just because it's the way of life, I think.
Yeah.
And so you were doing it, I was doing it, and then we found each other, and we've been building this elevate thing. we're starting a thing right now. Elevate Pizza Company.
Yes, the pizza company.
Crazy. Nobody. There's no pizza, smoke pizza out there, so I'm excited about that.
Me too.
I got to work with you, or I get to work with you on Elevate Veterans.
Yep. So Elevate Veterans is something we founded together since I started. So since starting here with Elevate, my future has just exploded into a realm of possibilities I never knew existed.
All I live in is hopes and dreams,
Yeah.
like that's my world.
When I first came in, I went to a party that you had downtown, and I tried the device. And because I was wearing a certain t-shirt that said Juice Plus, one of the ladies that was working with you said, you have to meet Steve because we're starting a program where we do Elevate at home and we get to introduce cannabis consumption devices to the world. So in my mind...
Thank you, Becca, for that.
Yes. In my mind, I thought he was this little guy that just needed my help to push this product because I've been doing direct sales for a long time. What I didn't know and what would have deterred me in the beginning was this huge empire that you have. Like, I'm so glad that and you said to me, I don't have any money, I can't pay you, but this is what I have. And so I started helping build this program, and then I realized there's more and more and more, and there actually is money, but I have to get it, right? Like, so I started doing sales, and I started doing events, and then I founded Elevate Veterans because...
And there's no money made in Elevate Veterans.
No, that's self-funded. You and I,
and our time,
we have
most of your time.
Self-funded nonprofit where we aid in the rehabilitation of veterans back into society by providing access to alternative therapies. That can be cannabis, that can be financial therapy, that can be any financial counseling, all of that stuff, right? And our glass blowing. And so, yeah, Elevate is where it's at now, and why I'm excited to share with the world
and that's why we want you to join
our views and
us.
Opinions, and can't wait to hear yours.
Mm-hmm. I believe what we're doing is right. I believe we're doing the best that we can. I believe there's a lot of y'all people out there that believe the way we do, and there's a lot of y'all that disagree. And
that's okay.
I've heard this thing like, you always think you're right. Fucking A, I always think I'm right.
Every person should always think they're right, but also keep their mind open that maybe there's another way.
Yeah, and I do go by that. I think I'm right, but I'm always open for another method, another way of thinking, this or that or whatever. I'm open, but right now, at this point in time, I'm doing everything the best I can to the brightest that I can to make it the best outcome for the future and for everything. Mm-hmm. If I knew a better way, I would do it a better way. And I think you're the same way. And that's how we,
Yep, just like you, I live in panic mode constantly because I'm a pleaser.
Yep.
And I want to be a world changer.
That's why I want to sell you a vaporizer so I could make you happy.
Yeah, absolutely. We're pleasers. That's it. This is a business of service. Yeah. Yep. And that's all I ever want to do is serve people. It just gets frustrating sometimes when I can't do it what I feel is the right way, but we're all learning. So
help us grow Elevate. Help
yes.
us tell your friends. Hit the subscribe thing down there. This is our brand new channel because we don't know where it's going to go, but YouTube, whatever, we are worried about that they might kick us off or something. We're not going to ever try to, we're going to be us is what it's going to be. But one thing I'm worried about is everywhere is this, like, if you say something that it's this, but no, that censorship. The reality is, if you're racist, I want to hear from you.
Sure.
Right? I want to understand, why are you racist? Because I think you're wrong. We bleed the same blood.
Sure.
But I don't want to cancel you out because then you're going to go underground and like any sore, you're going to fester. Mm-hmm. So, or like I learned in drug court when I got busted, you're a tea kettle. We're all tea kettles. And if we're not allowed to pop that, that's what I'm here for. And I think you too. We're here to pop the steam off a little bit. Because we're doing it to each other. We do it, but that's, like what does that help? It's preaching to the choir. So we want to cause some controversy, cause some stuff. I want to grow. I don't think I'm right on a lot of things, but I'm doing the best and the rightest I can.
I only know what I know. And until you tell me something else, I don't know it.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about. Elevate mind, body, spirit.
Yep.
You're very religious. I'm not. You were military. I'm not.